The country of Great Britain is a railway country, with a history that spans the course of 150 years, with many stories to tell. These are the stories of the men, women and steam locomotives who worked and served under the almighty power which was British Railways. A time of innovation, motivation and change for the men, women, their work, and the steam locomotives and their services. These are the stories of the locomotives and their crews who worked hard under the threat of their lines closing, their jobs changing, and simply replacement, whilst keeping their spirits high through their adventures. These are the stories of the Locomotives of British Railways. Episode 4. 222 Squadron storms through. The year was 1953, and the engines at Brighton had now been together for 2 years, and it had been a year since Oliver arrived at the sheds. Now all the engines had got used to each other's company, and life was carrying on just as it always has. That was until the Great Storm came. In January 1953, a great storm came around, bringing with it a mass amount of floods. This was to become known as the North Sea Flood. A combination of strong tides, along with European windstorms, it flooded major towns and villages in the country surrounding the North Sea coast, striking areas around England, Scotland, Belgium, and especially the Netherlands, and the people that were affected by this great force. The south of England didn't suffer greatly during the storm, but that didn't stop wind and rain affecting rail traffic. Especially with the engines of Brighton being so close to the channel, they had to be ready and wary of the weather. That is why on one late afternoon at around 4 o'clock of that month, Nicholas was just backing down into the shed next to Sir Kay, with a rather worrisome look on his face. Sir Kay was concerned, as Nicholas looked very disheartened and rather distracted in his contemplation. So the King Arthur decided to have a chat with the Greyhound.
Nicholas, is there anything wrong, old chap?
What? No, I mean, nothing to be concerned about.
Are you sure? It seems like whatever is on your mind is troubling you in a, if I may point out, rather obvious negative contemplation.
Don't worry, Sir Kay. My concern is not your concern. What I think is everyone's concern is this storm. My driver tells me it's going to get even worse as the day goes on, and it's going to make it difficult for trains to run.
Well, they can't exactly stop the trains. The passengers rely on us to get them home, safely and on time.
In this storm, Sir Kay, I think you'd be lucky to see any trains running at all. From my point of view, if the trains are running safely, then it doesn't matter when they arrive in this storm.
Nevertheless, I do get rather concerned for our engines if they don't turn up back at Brighton on time. This storm is getting much worse, as you said, and that can usually cause trouble for the running of the locomotive and its train.
Or they might not be running at all.
What do you mean, Nicholas?
Well, it's like we've been saying. The storm is getting worse. That doesn't necessarily mean it will cause delays to the engine's travels. The storm might cause mechanical damage. It's definitely going to be a challenge for the engines to get through. I just hope that everyone gets back safely and that everyone is accounted for.
So Kay started to look even more nervous. As he looked around the sheds, he could see that Johnnie was indeed unaccounted for, which made the engine prey on his tender that the Battle of Britain will be joining the rest of the engines in the sheds that night. Speaking of which, Johnnie was journeying back to Brighton with a full load of commuters on his train, and they were all anxious to get back to their homes out of the pouring rain and wind, and the cramped coaches. Johnnie realises this. Knowing that he had a duty to his passengers to get them home safely, the Pacific decided to go through the hospitable wind and rain, station by station. Clapham Junction, East Croydon, and at 3 bridges, Johnnie stopped to take on more water.
Oh my Ashford, with all that rain that's pouring on the tracks right now, you wonder what's the point filling up with water. Mother Nature can just do it for us.
Perhaps, but I'd rather it come from a water tank anyway. Yeah, I know it's all water, but I'm not enjoying this rain. And I wouldn't really like it in my tanks, no matter how fresh it is.
Whilst Johnnie was filling up with more water, passengers were cramming in and out of the coaches, taking shelter underneath the canopies and inside the waiting rooms of the station. But there was one passenger who wasn't. A little girl named Rosie, who she and her father always travelled on the London to Brighton line rather frequently to go to a well-established girls' school in the capital. She knew all the engines' names and would always say hello to them every time she saw them on their travels. She and her father are always seen frequently on Sir Kay's trains and is sometimes disappointed when she couldn't be pulled by him.
Hi, Johnnie. Where is Sir Kay?
Oh, I'm afraid he's at Brighton right now, Rosie. He doesn't usually pull this train. Would you like me to say hello to him for you when I get back to Brighton?
Yes, please.
The Pacific looked at the little girl curiously.
You don't usually travel on this train, Rosie.
No, Daddy says we must get home quickly because of the big storm. I don't know anything else.
He's probably just being concerned and curious, that's all. I hear that's what dads do.
Rosie, come on, darling. We need to get on the train.
Bye, Johnnie.
Rosie waved to Johnnie and his crew. She then ran back to her father, and the two of them then proceeded into their compartment inside one of the carriages.
Afternoon, Mike. Johnny.
All right, Percy.
You alright, Percy? What's the news? Oh, not good news, I'm afraid, Guy. I've just listened to the wireless. It turns out that this storm is delaying trains all across the south and north coast. It's worse out near the beaches, and now the forecast reckons there's going to be more wind and rain on the way.
This was bad. Johnnie now felt a great weight on his tender. Seeing Rosie and her father trying to get home, as well as the other passengers on board, was worrying. Couple that up with the bad weather ahead of them, Johnnie now felt a great deal of pressure to get these passengers home out of the weather before it gets too bad to travel along the tracks.
We're gonna have to get a move on pretty soon. Are we all tanked up, Guy?
Yep, all set. Ready on your whistle, Percy.
Right you are then.
Percy then headed back to his guard's van.
Get in quickly, please. As fast as you can.
And with that, the guard blew his whistle, and Johnnie stormed out of the station, slipping on the wet rails.
Keep up the sand, Guy. It's gonna be slippy on the way home. Gotcha, Mike.
Soon they were battling their way up against the weather once again. Johnny tried his best to make the ride comfortable for the passengers, as the overbearing thought of him not being able to take them home through the weather took over him, and he decided to just concentrate on getting themselves through the weather. The driver noticed this.
Hey, Guy, do you think everything is okay with Johnny?
To be honest, I can't really tell, Mike. Not in this weather anyway. But he does seem pretty determined about something.
I'll try and check. Johnny, are you okay?
Never better, Mike. Why?
Not sure. It's just like you're not all that focused on the comfort of the passengers behind you.
Don't worry. Passengers, number one priority. I'll get them through this weather, no matter what.
Driver Mike's concern increased as he popped his head back into the cab and checked the gauges. The train carried on for about 5 more miles down the track, up until they came to a yellow signal. The driver slowed down the train, and soon they came across Oliver with a rake of flatbeds. Oliver was very relieved to see Johnny.
Hello, Johnny. I see you're going up against this terrible weather.
Yeah, but that's the thing, Oliver. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can get through this weather.
I'm sure you can, Johnny. You always manage to find your way through the storm. But I'm not sure if I can. I think oh dear. I think I've run out of sand. Any chance of a push?
Johnny now felt conflicted. He wanted to help, but he didn't want to risk any chance of not being able to take his passengers home through the storm. Therefore, any delay could increase that chance.
Oh, well, I really do want to help, but I'm taking passengers home. It's more important. I'm sorry, Oliver. Come on, guys. Let's carry on. Mustn't stop. Mustn't stop.
Oh no! Don't worry. I'm sure I'll be fine. Hopefully.
I think that was the wrong thing to do, Mike. I agree. I think Karma's gonna come back and bite us in the bunker for not helping Oliver.
And sure enough, in this weather, it did.
Oh no! Hold on!
Brakes!
Oh no! No! Wheel slip! Oh no! We've lost traction to the rails.
That's not the only problem. The sandboxes are almost empty.
Johnny's wheels were spinning violently on the wet rails.
We'll have to slow down quickly. Actually, maybe stop altogether.
But what about the passengers? We can't delay.
Well, it's either that or face an accident.
No! We have to keep going.
We have no choice, Johnny. We've got to. Look, Mike! Up ahead! A tunnel! Perfect.
So driver Mike slowed Johnny down and took shelter in the tunnel.